Ohayo. Welcome to the So Japanese podcast, the podcast about all things Japan from a
Japanese
foreign perspective. We are your hosts. My name is John.
My name is Ryusuke.
Thank you for joining us today.
ありがと
Before we get started, some housekeeping stuff.
う。うん
As usual, please follow all our social media accounts. That helps, as well as rate, review, and subscribe
うん
wherever you find our podcasts. So if you haven't done so, we wouldn't mind if you hit pause
うん
and gave us 5 stars on whatever platform you use.
うん
Also, we have a Buy Me a Coffee account.
うん
So what that is I guess it's supposed to help support content creators.
うん
You can buy us a coffee,
うん
it's pretty much send us money.
うん
So if you want to help support us,
うん
we have our Buy Me a Coffee link in our podcast
うん
description, as well as our link tree where you can find on our social media accounts.
うん
Yeah, just help support us as we want to do some equipment upgrades,
うん
get that sound quality
Yep.
and also lighting upgraded,
Yep.
as well as to help us launch our merch.
Much.
So, yeah, if you're enjoying the podcast
うん
and you want to give
If
us
you
some
feel-
support, yeah, if you feel
Yep.
like it, no obligation, obviously.
Yeah.
But any amount would be super appreciated.
Yes.
Thank you.
お願いします。
お願いします。
はい。
So today's episode,
うん
it's a food one. You know,
Mhm.
we love to do food ones. Is Nabemono,
鍋物。
as well as we'll have a Japanglish segment at the end.
うん
So please stick around for that.
はい。
So nabe, it is a term used to describe different hot pot dishes,
うん
as well as the hot pot, the cooking vessel itself.
うん
So if you say, I want to go out for nabe,
うん That means hot pot.
hot pot.
Yeah.
And for our listeners that even if hot pot doesn't really describe what the food is, it's pretty
Mhm.
much a simmering pot
Yeah.
of flavored liquid.
Yeah. It's basically like big pot of stew.
Yeah.
But like no cooking couple hours.
Mhm.
It's like put all the ingredient in a soup or
Mhm.
like the broth
Mhm.
and then cook it down for like couple minutes and then eat.
And it's not like a Western style stew where it's like thick,
No.
right? And like gravy-ish. It's
No.
more like watery, brothy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a bit about the history.
Yep.
Nabe has been eaten since 131 BC.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, I think what they did was like they would cook all the ingredients
Mhm.
in a nabe, in a big pot,
Mm-hmm.
and then serve it separately to
Yep.
people.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since the end of the Edo period,
Mm-hmm.
the Japanese started using hibachi and
Mm-hmm.
shichirin. Shichirin is
The charcoal grill.
on like a portable clay.
Yeah. Clay. Yeah.
And that sounds pretty cool actually.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had nabe with the
The
shichirin.
shichirin.
Yeah,
Me
it's always
neither.
like the gas.
yeah.
like-
It's too
Um,
expensive to
okay.
use the binchotan or
That's true, that's true.
charcoals. Yeah.
And then they also started using like a round table
Mm-hmm.
where people, friends, family would gather
Gather,
around
yeah.
and eat
And
the
eat
nabe.
together.
Eat together, like
Mhm.
kind of serve each other, serve yourself, as opposed to how it was originally,
Mm-hmm.
where I guess it was like done in the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and then the individual bowls would be served out.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's nabe.
Mm-hmm.
There are many different nabe dishes,
Yep.
but essentially ingredients
Mm-hmm.
in boiling
Mhm.
liquid
Mm-hmm.
and then served.
Yep.
Dipping sauces.
Dipping sauces. Sometimes yes, sometimes you don't even have, but mostly yeah, there's a
Right.
dipping sauce.
Depends, right? It's a
Yeah.
really communal type thing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I think the first time I got invited to my friend's house in Japan was for a nabe party.
Yeah.
Right? That's common, right?
Especially like winter time, because like
that's exactly the time.
Like
yeah.
you wanna hang out with your friend, but like you wanna save some money, and then but you wanna keep warm.
Yeah.
So it's perfect, like easy. You just cut all the ingredient, be ready, and when all the friends come in, so start boiling the liquid like broth, and then put everything in, ready to eat.
And it's like I wouldn't say it's like a fast meal. It's like you kind of take your time.
Yep.
Hanging out with friends, eating at the same time, being surrounded by like a heat source, as well as we mentioned it before in the winter podcast where you would have the kotatsu.
Yep.
So that's like double warmth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess we're doing this podcast because we're thinking about nabe. Winter. I mean, summer's ending.
Yeah.
Nights are starting to get cold.
Yeah. Right away when the weather change, it's getting cold here in Toronto, and I feel, I want to eat nabe. Yeah.
I feel like Japan, Japanese people love to have parties that are about food, right? So we have nabe party. What else do you have?
We have takoyaki party. We have gyoza party, the dumpling.
The sushi, the
tamaki sushi party.
So tamaki sushi is like sushi, I suppose, but a hand roll.
Hand roll. So like, it's like it's not same thing as nabe, but like they cut all the ingredient. The rice is ready, and then the nori, which is the seaweed seeds, cut it into like square for like per person.
It's like a build your own sushi party.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And as well as with the food, obviously drinks are accompanied.
For Japanese, like when you eat and drink together, it's not like you go for dinner first, then after that, let's go bar.
Yeah.
Like we do that too, but mostly we eat and drink together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we will talk about a few popular regional nabe dishes. So the first one is from Tohoku. I think specifically Akita.
Yep.
And that is
Kiritampo nabe.
Kiritampo nabe. So kiritampo are the rice cakes.
Yeah, it's like a mochi rice. They put on a how
skewer.
To say it? Like a skewer, and then they grill it, so it makes like a roasted mochi type. And obviously they take out from the stick, and then dump into the stock.
I've never tried this one, but then does the rice cake become really like slimy because it melts
gets
a bit,
soggy,
right?
Yeah.
So rice cake in a miso broth, along with leeks, burdock root, maitake mushrooms. Pretty much all these nabes, would you say like the vegetable component is just like whatever is seasonal or like
mostly it's
well?
seasonal,
Yeah.
but also
like
like
winter season.
yeah. But I'll say normally for nabe it's like mushroom and cabbage, either napa cabbage or regular cabbage, and onions or scallions, and meat, of course, protein, either fish or like animal meat, and carrots and stuff. Yeah.
Animal meat.
Yeah, sorry, it's meat. No fake animal meat.
Not as opposed to human meat.
Yeah.
And this one, I guess it makes sense, right? It's eaten during rice harvest season. So I guess September to late March.
Yep.
The next two are both from the Fukuoka region. This one we talked about in our
the Kyushu
podcast
that recently we brought. Yeah.
And that's motsunabe.
Motsunabe.
An awful hot pot. Not like awful as in bad, but like awful as in like the animal guts.
Yeah.
So the main ingredient is intestines. Could be from pork or beef, or you can add chicken gizzards as well. Vegetables, but this one's more garlicky, chili peppery.
It's more like chili peppery.
I guess to like counteract the gamey, the I guess undesirable flavor of innards, right? In a dashi, soy, miso broth.
Yep.
I haven't tried this one, as I mentioned, and I really want to.
It's really good. I should make it. One day.
I think you should.
Yeah, I will.
It has a distinctive texture, I guess. Like all innards have like a more like crunchy, chewy,
and then it has a lot of fat too.
Yes.
So that the fat gives us more umami.
And because it's from Kyushu, that's paired with sochu.
Yeah, shochu. Why not?
Another one from Fukuoka is
Mizutaki Nabe.
Mizutaki Nabe. Main ingredient is chicken. Is Fukuoka popular for chicken?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
They have a good chicken too.
So this one, vegetables, mushrooms, chicken, tofu, simmered in a light tasting kombu dashi. So I think for this one is like a more plain broth, right?
It's really plain. So for this, you have to have like dipping sauce.
Okay.
Mostly, I think they use ponzu.
Okay.
Which is like soy-based, citrusy, little bit of sour dipping sauce. Yeah.
As well as maybe a bit of yuzu kosho.
Yeah.
And that's like a paste made from
yuzu, the citrus, Japanese citrus with the pepper.
Sancho pepper.
Yeah.
Japanese pepper.
Yeah.
But I think the focus on this one is the chicken. That's why everything is supposed to be light. And I guess you can add like chicken wing tips.
Yep.
First in the broth to develop more collagen.
Flavors. Yeah.
Apparently, people like to eat this one if they care about their skin.
Oh yeah, because like even motsunabe, like in Japan, they say like there's a lot of collagen.
Yeah.
So it's good for your skin, especially for the female people. If you care about your skin, it gives you more like how to say, like clean,
bouncy, tight
Yeah.
skin.
Yeah.
And if any nation were to give their secrets on how to look young, I would trust the Japanese, right?
Okay, yeah.
Japanese have like what, the longest life expectancy, and yeah, I guess it's because they eat clean, healthy food with a lot of collagen.
Even though there's so many stress while you're living in Japan.
I think the people generally that live the longest in Japan are like Okinawa, no?
Yeah, it's warm, and how they eat is actually it's very balanced. I think I saw one lady, she's like 90 something or close to 100. She can still work. She talk like regular, like normal, and she smokes cigarette a lot.
Damn.
Yeah, but she said because she eats pork every day.
It counteracts the cigarettes.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Right. Anyway,
we should do that.
Yeah.
I think Japan has like the most centurions. I think that's what they call people that are like 100 plus.
Okay.
I think out of every country. I'm not sure. The next one is from Hokkaido.
It's called Ishikari Nabe.
Ishikari Nabe. So the main ingredient is salmon.
Yep.
I guess
Hokkaido is the famous for salmon.
Salmon likes cold water, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is focused on salmon, onions, cabbage, kombu, which is interesting as well with the broth. Sometimes milk or butter or sake kazu is added to, I guess, to thicken it, a richer flavor.
Yeah.
For our listeners that don't know sake kazu, you want to share?
Sake kasu. Sake kasu is the one when they distill sake.
When they distill sake,
they have the rice bits left.
And exactly. I think it's just like the byproduct of sake making. I think it's the same as like Marmite or Vegemite. Like it's the byproduct of like beer or one of the alcohols. Yeah. So I guess it's like a good no waste product, right?
And I think there's a lot of flavors, and then there's still like a lot of nutrition.
Yeah. So I think that's the benefit of it.
And also why they put the milk, because Hokkaido is also famous for cow milk and butter, all those products too.
I haven't had this one either, and I really want to try it.
This, I love it.
Because it's like milky broth with salmon.
Yeah.
Fishy.
I didn't put milk.
Okay.
Because personally, I don't really like milk. But still, like the flavor from the salmon and the miso. So
and this one is you can dip in sancho pepper. So sancho pepper, I think it's like it's a Japanese pepper, but I think it's maybe the same family as the Szechuan pepper.
Szechuan pepper, yeah.
So Szechuan pepper is, I guess, earthier, numbing flavor.
Yeah.
And then sancho pepper, I would describe it as not as more fresh.
Yeah, more fresh and more like spicier. Maybe because it's
spicier.
Fresh. Yeah,
it's spicier. Yeah, I feel like sancho pepper. I mean, the other one,
Szechuan pepper.
Szechuan pepper is like zero spicy. It's just numbing in flavor.
Yeah.
But yeah, sancho pepper. I remember in the markets in Kyoto, there's like a sancho pepper guy, and he let me try like the fresh one, and it like blows you away in flavor.
Yeah,
that's why you have to use like very
tiny
little.
bit. Yeah.
All right. Now we'll share our top 5 favorite nabe dishes. Top 5. So, number 5.
Number 5, it's yudofu nabe. But we call yudofu.
Yeah. Based from Kyoto, I believe, right?
Well, Kyoto is very popular for tofu and yuba, so
so really clean tasting one. This one
really clean.
Water flavored in kombu and silken tofu is added. I feel like tofu is such like a delicate flavor that you never really add too much to it.
No,
or else you can't taste the tofu. I mean, arguably, tofu doesn't really have much of a flavor anyway, right?
But I think Kyoto, even like in Japan, they use the special soy. So they get like very flavorful soy milk. Because one of the restaurants I used to work in Japan, we make fresh tofu every day. And then the tofu itself has actually like very like sweet, nice flavor. So how we serve is like obviously like fresh tofu we made every day with just the soy.
Yeah, I think the tofu that you buy in like
in the
supermarkets now,
it's tofu.
It's
But if you get actual good tofu, it's actually blow your mind.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I had this there's a restaurant on the way to Kiyomizudera.
Yeah.
And that walking street there up to it is pretty cool.
Yep.
And it was like a halal tofu, like halal? It was like kaiseki, just tofu.
Yeah.
Like, it was really good, really good. Next one, number 4.
Yose nabe.
I guess this is the one that I've had the most.
Yeah, I mean, Yose nabe description is basically like put whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yose means to gather up things. So it's a good way to use any leftover ingredients, whatever you have in the fridge, any vegetables that are about to go off or whatever. I think this is like a really home style nabe. Right? So good way to use leftover vegetables, meats. And then for the broth, a lot of homes will buy like pre-packaged broths. But you can use any broth for this one. Right?
And then you can even like you can make it basically like soy, maybe sake, little bit of mirin and dashi broth. So
you can use any broth really, like chicken broth,
broth,
whatever you have hanging around, right? A bit of miso too, that
miso
can help.
You'll
say nabe. Pretty much the general,
most
nabe.
easy nabe,
right? Number 3 might be surprising, and that is
Kimuchi Nabe.
Kimuchi Nabe. So kimuchi is the Japanese pronunciation for kimchi. Yes, originally from Korea. But I feel like, so pretty much it's like a Japanese version of kimchi jjigae. Right? So kimchi stew in Korea. I'm not sure if I had like really good kimchi in Japan, but I feel like Japanese kimchi is like not as spicy, not as pungent.
No,
correct?
It's more, for me, it's more sweeter and not too spicy.
And it's maybe not as fermented.
No.
I felt like it's like more fresh tasting.
Fresh. Yeah. Exactly.
So there's a little difference there.
So
pretty much a kimchi broth flavored with anchovy, dried anchovy, and bunch of vegetables.
Enoki
and mushrooms, carrot, tofu, noodles.
And thin sliced pork or like when I eat kimuchi nabe, mostly it's pork, thin sliced pork.
I think so. I feel like anytime I eat, maybe kimchi and pork is a good combo. Right? I want to say the main meat in Korea is pork.
For sure, yes.
I think pork belly is their like main prized meat, right?
And also don't forget to put tofu in a kimchi nabe. It's good too. I mean, tofu for nabe. It's kind of
Must, right?
Yeah.
We actually should after this maybe we can quickly say our main must ingredients for any nabe.
Sure.
Tofu for sure, just because it absorbs all the flavor of the broth, right? Number 2 might be surprising to you guys, but it's still considered a nabe. And that is
shabu shabu.
Shabu shabu. I think nowadays shabu shabu restaurants are pretty much everywhere now. Right? So shabu shabu is a onomatopoeia for like swish swish sound. So that's how you're supposed to cook the thinly sliced meat. The liquid is boiling. 3 dips, would you say?
I would say like couple swish. And then ready to eat.
Right? You don't swish it too long. Don't overcook it.
No.
Right? So more savory.
And then for shabu shabu, normally like the broth is only kombu dashi. So like no so much flavor in it. But you swish all the ingredient, dipping into ponzu or either the sesame dipping sauce, which is called gomadare.
That's a good one.
So one is light and fresh, fresh kind of flavor, which is ponzu, and then gomadare has more like thick and creamier taste.
For shabu shabu, if I say you want to go out for shabu shabu, are you thinking meat? Right? So it's more of like a meat-centric nabe. What vegetables would be used for shabu shabu?
Normally scallion, napa cabbage, and sometimes they have some carrot, like thin slice. Also mizuna, which is Japanese mustard green.
More like arugula
type.
Type of that.
But it's not so spicy.
More tender too, I would
More tender,
say. And our number one favorite nabe
is sukiyaki.
So for our listeners who are familiar with sukiyaki, it is considered a nabe. I guess it's
Yeah, Sukiyaki is not the song.
There's a Sukiyaki song?
You don't know?
No.
What? Yeah. I mean,
that's a Japanese song?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that's a Japanese song.
It's a Japanese song, and then we don't even call it Sukiyaki, but somehow, like, overseas, and then it called Sukiyaki.
I didn't know that was a Japanese song.
Yeah, this is a Japanese song.
What's the English name for that song?
Sukiyaki.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, people. I guess like listener know more than John.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
All right. So our most favorite one, Sukiyaki. It's the broth is what?
Broth is basically kombu dashi, and then so for Sukiyaki, there's a two-way. Kansai version is you cook the meat. Sukiyaki is mostly beef. So thin sliced beef, you cook in a hot pot, I mean the nabe first. And then after that, you add soy with sugar into it. And you cook the meat with the sauce. And then after that, you add kombu dashi. So, and then at that point, it gets nabe. I mean,
so I think for what makes sukiyaki is the rendered beef fat.
Yep.
Right? Like that's the must, right? So when you cook the beef first, it's the dry nabe, right? There's no liquid in the nabe to render the fat.
Yeah. And then normally you taste one beef and then you say, oh, that's good. Then you start adding more like vegetable and then everything.
So you want to taste the beef flavor first.
Exactly.
Before you dilute it with vegetables, right?
And they use like Wagyu so many times. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the beef fat is a main component in sukiyaki, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So sukiyaki, another thing that's different with this one, is this the only one that you use to, you dip the ingredients in like a beaten raw egg?
This is the only one.
Only one.
Yeah.
So, and also I feel like sukiyaki is a more sweet.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like a sweeter
I would say
one.
Easy to describe. It's like teriyaki flavor.
Ah, that's
right?
true. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much teriyaki soup.
Exactly.
That's a good way to describe it, actually.
Yeah.
So in Japan, raw eggs are eaten like normally. Like they don't have that fear, I guess, in North America about eating raw egg.
It's actually soul food,
right?
Raw egg with rice.
Yeah, beaten raw egg.
Yeah.
On the rice.
You
mix
with
it all
soy
together.
Sauce. Yeah.
The texture, I can't. If it's like a lot of, if the rice to egg ratio, the rice was more, I like it. But if it's like, if it gets too soupy, or too wet,
you get growth.
A little bit.
Yeah, me too. Like I eat tamago kake gohan all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I always want more rice than egg.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It gets too slimy in the mouth. Yeah. And you know you're eating raw egg. It's like,
But again, like if you, I don't know where you guys come from. So you need to check your egg is super fresh. But with sukiyaki, you can't finish just one egg.
Right.
You need to have like couple eggs.
Yeah.
So when you keep dipping, the egg is gone. And then,
why do you think that you are supposed to dip this beef or the vegetables in the raw egg?
I think because like sukiyaki is quite strong flavor than other nabe. So especially like soy flavor, right? So when you dip in the egg, it suits all the flavor like perfectly with that like raw egg is kind of sweet.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I would say like more creamier.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the flavor of soy with the raw egg makes really like good flavor.
Yeah, it's a good combination.
It's great combination.
And I think for sukiyaki, we'll talk about it later in our tips, our nabe tips. But is udon mostly used at the end?
At the end? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Mostly udon. Yeah.
So when all the ingredients are done, the broth is left over. You don't want to waste this broth. It's like been super flavorful broth. You use that broth to cook udon.
Yep.
Udon will absorb the flavor,
all the flavor,
the chewy texture. Yeah, I love it. Like for sure, whenever I have sukiyaki, you also need rice.
Yeah,
with the broth, right?
Yeah.
So apparently, like during the Edo period, I guess before that, in Japan, they were told to not eat meat. I guess for Buddhist reasons or whatever. But with sukiyaki, I guess it was a way to introduce meat again to the public.
Yeah.
And that's how it became really popular.
Very popular. And then that's how the nabe hot pot itself getting more popular too because of sukiyaki.
So if I were to make sukiyaki and I said, Ryusuke, I used pork, what would you say? It's not sukiyaki, right? Sukiyaki is like beef only.
Sukiyaki is beef. Yeah. Like, I mean, you can use pork or even chicken, but if that case, I don't call sukiyaki.
Right.
When Japanese people heard we have sukiyaki tonight, has to be beef.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned, you just talked about how you don't know where our listeners are from. And I've been meaning to like ask you guys where send us a message or DM or whatever, comment on any of our social media. We would like to know where you're from.
Yeah.
You know, a bit about you, you know, what you do, what you like, maybe why you're interested in Japan. Yeah, we would really like to get to know our listeners more. That's kind of why we sometimes go live on TikTok, just to meet our listeners. We want to know more about you guys. I guess also it gives us a way to better suit our podcast towards you guys. So yeah, let us know. Some quick honorable mentions. We have Tonyu Nabe. I haven't had this one. I really want to try it. Soy milk based broth. Super interesting one.
Super good.
And the good part about this one is as the nabe is boiling with soy milk.
So the soy milk, like same as milk, right? When you boil in milk, you get the skin on top of the boiling milk. So like Tonyu, you get the same situation and you pour. That's called yuba, which is that's also edible, obviously, and it's really good.
Do people fight over the yuba then?
No, not fight. But yeah, some people love it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Next one, fugu nabe.
Yeah, fugu nabe.
So, puffer fish.
Puffer fish, like poisoning fish.
You need a special license to butcher it.
But normally, like you can buy already butchered the fugu meat from like fish market. So,
and for this one, it's important is the rice porridge at the end, which is called
fugu zosui.
So at the end, like we mentioned, sukiyaki, you add udon. This one you add rice, right?
Yep.
And then another one.
Anko nabe.
Anko nabe.
Yeah.
Anko is monkfish.
Monkfish. Yeah.
So a meteor fish. You add liver to it as well?
Yeah.
So ankimo is monkfish liver. Yeah.
I actually try one of most popular Anko nabe in Tokyo.
Okay.
I think they've been open for like over 100 years. And then they put a lot of the liver.
Okay.
It gives really rich flavor into
it.
I thought it was miso at beginning.
Because it's so thick.
Exactly. But no, it was actually liver.
Oh, wow. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not uncommon in Japan to hear of restaurants that are been open like more than 100 years.
Yeah. Right?
It's like normal there.
Yeah.
And the last one, we talked about it in our sumo episode. If you haven't listened to that one, go ahead. and this one is
Chanko Nabe.
Chanko Nabe.
Yep.
We talked about it in that episode,
Yep.
but yeah, it's a nabe invented maybe by sumo wrestlers to help them really gain weight. And we'll add a little fun fact here is that originally Chanko Nabe was only made with chicken.
Yeah.
Why?
Because pork and beef, they work 4 legs, but chicken is always standing.
Yeah.
So as sumo wrestler, when they play the game, if you touch your hand and you lose.
So yeah, it's like symbolic, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Nice. All right. So we have 6 tips for you when you have a nabe party or when you want to make nabe. So the first tip is remember the cooking order. So the ingredients you should add first would be like the ingredients that could flavor the broth. So maybe the kombu, miso, chicken, fish.
Yep.
You don't put the thinly sliced meat in the beginning.
No,
right?
no,
They'll
no.
overcook it.
Yeah.
So after some time, the broth is getting more flavorful. You can add the ingredients that maybe take a little bit longer to cook.
Like root vegetables, like potato, carrots and daikon, or like thick cut vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe after that, you can add
the noodles called shirataki noodle. I think it's made by bean, like green bean.
Yeah. I think mung bean.
Mung bean. Yeah.
And then last, you would add
like thinly sliced meat or like thinly sliced or like easy to cook vegetables.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about tofu? Because you want the tofu to absorb the flavor, but if you put it too early, it can break apart, right?
Yeah, but like I always put tofu maybe like first or second.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So a good tip is when you put the vegetables, like the root vegetables or like the thicker cut vegetables or the white parts of napa cabbage, is to put a lid on it.
Yep. To cook it a little bit.
Cook it a little bit. Nice. Next tip is do not overcook your ingredients.
Obviously.
So I guess you have to keep an eye on it.
Yep.
Again,
Yep.
thinly sliced meats, things that cook really fast at the end. Next one. Skim the broth once in a while.
Yeah, especially when you put the proteins, obviously you get all the, how do you call?
Impurities, maybe?
Yeah.
Some like foaminess.
Yeah.
Right? The scum.
Yeah. Obviously it's not bad things, but you know, it's better to take it out.
Yeah.
The foamy things I heard actually, if you don't add any salt, it tastes nothing. It tastes actually good. But because of you added salt, it gets bitter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I never thought of it like that.
So obviously for nabe, mostly you put salt or like soy sauce or miso.
Yeah.
That's also why you want to skim all those stuff.
Yeah, skim the broth. Really important. Really, really important. And our next tip.
Can we comment? Sorry.
It's okay. Oh, genius. It's good? Yeah, it's good. All right. Want to clap?
Yep.
Our next tip is don't forget the shime.
Yeah.
So we mentioned it before. Shime is at the time where you add
like noodles or rice or
So shime means to finish up.
Yep.
So yeah, you ate all the ingredients, the leftover broth, and also I feel like you're when you eat nabe, you're talking. It takes a long time. You might not necessarily be really full.
No,
from the ingredients, right? So the shime, where you add noodles, any type of noodles really, rice to the broth is like a way to like fill you up. It's a good ending to the meal, right?
Also, because of like a lot of time when you eat nabe with you don't eat nabe by yourself. Sometimes you eat nabe by yourself, like with small pot. But like normally you eat with your friend or coworkers. So, and then like we mentioned that when we eat, Japanese people eat, we always drink. So when we drink more, at the end we wanna eat some like how to say, like a starchy like food. So even though when we go izakaya and then we finish drink and eat, and then we always like, okay, let's go ramen. That's the shime.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And that brings us to our next tip. Drinks go with nabemono. So really important to have drinks. So for alcohol, cold beer, sake, non-alcoholic drinks.
That's also fine.
Oolong tea, mugicha, barley tea, hot green tea, hojicha, any teas. Or even a Coca-Cola, whatever you want. And our last tip, have extra broth or water on hand to top up the nabe when needed. So again, it could be hours, right? This meal, right? You're hanging out with your friends. As the nabe is boiling, obviously evaporation, the water level is going to go down. You still have ingredients to cook. Have some
like extra broth or liquid.
A picture of it on hand.
Because otherwise it's going to evaporate and then like, oh shit, we don't have any liquid. But we still have so much ingredient.
And party's over. It's a bad way to end the party. Again, obviously broth is ideal, right? Adashi even better, but water is fine, right? The nabe already has been boiling, has been reducing, flavor has been concentrated, so it's okay to add some water. All right, our next part is etiquette. I love doing these etiquette parts to our podcast, right? It's a good insight to how Japanese people think. Good tips for our listeners to when they visit Japan, to not look foolish. Right? All right. So our first tip for nabe is to not use your own chopstick to pick food out of the pot. So generally at a nabe party, there'll be communal chopsticks around the table, communal ladles, right? In a pinch, if like, I don't know, it's not close to you, someone else is using it, whatever, you can always turn your chopstick around. So not like the mouth end, but the part you hold with your hand, you flip it around, then use that to get into the pot. I guess just hygiene, right? Although the pot is boiling, so
it's kind of killing all those bacteria, but you might gonna get the eyes from other friends like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
Do you know?
The next one is don't be too picky or greedy. Again, communal, right? You're supposed to share with everyone. Don't eat all the beef, right? And sometimes when you're being served or you serve yourself, maybe you wanted a bit of the napa cabbage, but instead you grabbed a bit of carrot as well. Just eat it. Right?
Because for this, actually, when we have Sukiyaki at my home, we always fight. I mean, my sister and I are always like arguing, like, oh, you eat too much beef. And I always said, like, you eat too much beef. And I ended up, there's no beef anymore. There's only vegetable.
Your parents eat it while you guys are arguing. So a good way to think about it is like, it's a balanced meal, right? So try to eat a bit of every ingredient. That's a good way to keep track. Next one is once you pick the food from the pot, don't return it. So you pick tofu. Oh, I don't really like tofu. Put it back in.
Don't.
That's like super gross, right? But what if like you picked up a piece of beef, but it was still pretty raw? What do you do?
It shouldn't be happening,
right?
Shouldn't be. But at the end, beef you can eat.
How about
raw.
Chicken then?
Chicken, well,
what would you do? Maybe shabu shabu back into it,
or like,
or just eat it anyway.
like ask someone if you're not sure. Is this ready?
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Another tip or piece of etiquette is to not stir the pot.
No, don't.
Yeah. Because it's like, again, it's I guess a good way to describe nabe is a stew, but it's not really.
No.
Like all the ingredients aren't supposed to be like mashed up together. So if you stir it, you can, for real, break up the tofu.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
And it'll just be a mess.
And when you research nabe, I think normally you can see the image of like nabe is like there's a mushroom, there's a meat, there's a veggies, carrot. It's all separate.
Yeah, all separate, all has its place.
Exactly. Yeah. Obviously, at the end, it will combine everything. But yeah,
at the end, it all mixes up anyway. But don't stir the pot.
Yeah.
Another piece of etiquette is if you sit near the nabe pot and your friends are maybe further away from it, offer to help dish out food and serve them. Right?
Yeah.
That's a really good tip.
Yep.
But I'm sure in Japan as well, like how you guys really consider age and status.
Yeah.
I'm guessing especially if you eat it with coworkers, your boss gets served first.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Or even like the elder member of your family.
Yeah. If I'm the youngest, then I go out for eat nabe with my coworkers, and then there's a boss. I'm the one like, I'm gonna do for you guys.
How about with friends?
With friends, we don't care.
How about the host?
Still no.
Okay.
I mean, like if they like it, they can do it. But yeah.
So the host would serve. How about like if just say we're at your house and you're having a nabe party, you're hosting the nabe party. Would it be good etiquette for me as a guest to be like, oh, Ryusuke, I serve you first because you're the host?
No.
Okay. Next one. Important one, I think, is to be aware, check, and try to match your friend's pace of eating.
Because you just keep eating.
Right? So gauge the air, right? The pace. Everyone's maybe talking, drinking. There's match that speed or else you're going to be eating too much food.
Yeah, actually, because like Japanese culture, I think Asian culture, we love sharing food, like big plate or whatever.
Yes.
Even izakaya, we share the plate. But I know North America, even Europe, people order their own food. But again, like obviously nabe is not just for you.
Yeah.
So that means like you really need to share with people. So you need to know that, just the common sense, right? Yeah.
It's a good dish to help, I guess, introduce like communal eating for Westerners, right? Another piece of etiquette is always offer to add more ingredients when needed, or like top up more liquid when needed, right? But pretty much like if you're not sure what to do, how to eat, if food is ready or not, just ask around your friends, right?
Exactly.
That's the best one.
Yep.
All right. So thank you for listening to the nabe part
now
of our
hungry.
podcast. I'm so hungry as well. This brings us to our Japanglish segment. This one's kind of food related, Japanglish, for our new listeners, we've gained a lot of new followers and listeners to our podcast. So thank you for if you're new.
Thank you.
So Japanglish is a segment where we try to introduce words that are Japanese words, and they kind of took on their own meaning. But all these words have been borrowed from English.
Yep.
So the first word is
gurume.
Gurume. Gurume is Japanglish for gourmet.
Yeah.
Like, fancy food. However, it's only used to describe someone as a gurume, as a gourmet, as opposed to the food itself. So, for example, you have a friend that loves to eat out at fancy, expensive restaurants a lot. You would call them a gurume. So,
yeah. So if John loves going out dinner at fancy restaurant all the time, then I say, John-san, gurume da na.
Nice.
Yeah.
The next one we have is
サービス
So that is Japanglish for service.
Mhm.
However, in Japanese, when you say to give someone service, sabisu, it means something that is complimentary or on the house, something that is free that the establishment is giving to you. So for like service, like good service, customer service, you would say, so if a restaurant gives you really good service, you would say,
いい接客
sekyaku
接客 Yeah.
is service.
Yep.
So service, sabisu, is for free things. So for example, you're drinking at your favorite regular izakaya. The owner knows you. The owner gives you a dish on the house.
これサービス
Sabisu.
サービス
So something
On the
free.
house.
On the house, exactly. Compliments from the kitchen.
Yep.
It's also common for restaurants in Japan to do sabasu promotions. So for example, a ramen restaurant, maybe we'll have a lunch sabasu promotion, which they could
like free drink or maybe the free rice
Okay.
or couple piece of dumpling. Yeah.
Or you can have taimu sabasu.
Yes.
So time service, a timed service, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe, for example, from the hours between 2 to 4, like maybe a slower time at a restaurant, they have a promotion where all food is half price.
Half price.
All drinks are half price.
Yeah.
Or
Something
buy
like
one, get
that.
one free. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, gurume and
Service.
sabisu. I hope you enjoyed that Japanglish segment. I think it's a really useful one, right?
Yeah.
Especially like sabisu.
Yeah.
Right? People might not understand.
People might not understand, but like if you go eat somewhere like small izakaya and then they like you and then the izakaya owner gonna say service give to you like some, I don't know, pickle or small dish. Yeah.
So thank you for listening to our podcast.
ありがとうございます。
That was a fun one. Yeah, thank you.
はい。またね。バイバイ。